long day. It's been a long, long day. Alrighty. Oh, I have a second copy of my... Oh no, what tab is it in? Oh no. Yeah. Figuring out the tab here. Alrighty. Screen cap the daily plan, please. Oh, we're having some window capturing. Oh my god, I'm wondering where the sound is coming from. Like it's not coming from my browser. I don't have an extra tab open. And I'm like, "Oh man, I accidentally hit play in Discord." Oh, hey, kitty cat. Okay. Let's see here. I'll keep playing there. Alright, we're back on track. We are back on track now. Well, for some reason, OBS isn't capturing my trading view. Too weird, too weird. Well, I got it to work. That's some good news. Technical issues, technical issues. Now, getting charts loaded. There we go. Well, thank you guys for your patience who are watching the recording. I gotta put a comment down saying to skip like to the 5-minute mark because there were some technical problems here on my side, some unforeseen technical problems. You know, it's a little different when you're streaming every single day at the same time every single day compared to, oh man, you know, I should probably stream now before I go out for the rest of the night. So, let's see here. We've had pretty much a mixed market. Dollars making new lows, Bitcoin's going higher. Some say that's just totally risk on, but the NASDAQ has been going lower. And oil's been going higher. So commodities are up, the dollar's down. Crypto is up, equities are down. So that's what I mean by somewhat of a mixed market and some mixed signals here in these markets. As for the day ahead, let's go ahead and look at our range probabilities here for the major assets. Alrighty. It looks like as far as any more downside here on the dollar, you'll notice that there's been some visual improvements to the range probabilities indicator. Now you can actually see areas very clearly lit up very, very bright colors. Exactly where most of the probabilities lie, and then you get into lighter shades as the probabilities get thinner and thinner. And that'll get more useful if we end up finding a sort of bimodal setup. That's where thresholding can come in handy. And you can clearly say like, oh, once you go past this R1 pivot, your odds get very thin. You guys are familiar with me saying that sort of stuff? Well, now you can actually visually see it. And let me go ahead and zoom in here. And sorry, no webcam today either. I got a stream and run. Right, stream and run. So this is going to be a stream on the shorter side of things. And part of it's going to be demoing out some of the new stuff that I've put out for everyone who's got range probabilities. So you can visually see where the threshold is, like where the probabilities start to get super thin, where the distribution of highs, in this case, start to get super thin. So maybe if you wanted to have insurance against, quote unquote insurance against getting highs for this trading day above this R1 pivot, put your stop at that R1. That seems reasonable. And then you can look right here and say like, oh, 14% of the time your high for the day comes in above 102.5. And we're just at 102.5 on this R1 daily pivot. So, that all makes sense. That all makes sense. It gives you a good idea of what type of probabilities you have of going above or below a certain pivot for a given trading day. Let's go on to the next one. So I'd say, maybe buying above this S1, selling anywhere up here. I don't think the high is in for the day quite yet. And the low's probably not in quite yet. I think we still have quite a bit more movement ahead of us here on the dollar. As far as Bitcoin goes, I'm not so fond of this distributional shape. So let me go to a 1 hour and see if I can get it to update to look maybe more normal. There's still some graphical things. All the probabilities are still calculated properly. So there's always one or two little graphical glitches. Oh, I wonder why it's not loading. Calculation timed out. Uh-oh. Well, we can force it to reload by updating one of these settings. I wonder why it takes longer on Bitcoin. But yeah, it looks like most of your lows for a day are pretty aggressive. Like they come in either right here or right around here. Wow, 40. Is that serious? 48% of the time your low for a day comes in right around here? That can't be. That can't be. That's just, that'd actually be insane if that's actually true. Let's try a 3-hour time frame. Get it to reload some data with just a little more historical data involved. Yeah, it turns out that there's kind of a peak roughly right around here. Yeah. Wow. Quite a decent peak. Yeah, so above this, yeah, the low's probably in for the day. I would not be surprised. But the high technically could be in for the day. I mean, once you get past, I'd say here, right, you could see how 89% of the time your top for a given trading day occurs below this price of 30.7k. Like if we go back to these last 2 trading days, like for example here, let's say you were going short into this rally for whatever reason, or you wanted to only go long once you had some crazy tail risk start to come in, you can just use this high distribution where your tops come in and say like, okay, once we start getting into these super transparent odds over here, this is where I need to maybe more seriously consider getting in. Or maybe around here at this R1, you're like, once we cross this R1 pivot, things start to, the sizes of our probabilities get smaller and more spread out through price. So maybe I put my stop here because I have more uncertainty about where the top's going to be coming in for the trading day. Or you can take this as a long, assuming that Bitcoin has like some blow off top. And in this situation, that second analysis is the correct one. Yeah, maybe that S2, that R2 level. One of the things with this indicator is that it recalculates every single bar update. So that looks normal, yeah. So this R2, once you crack that R2, you're starting to deal with tail risk stuff. So either you're getting out at that R2 or you're getting in and hoping that it just continues going up, up, and away like the Bitcoin do. Yeah. Same thing over here. Let's see if it'll load the low data. Yeah. So I was saying, hey, you could probably come in a bit lower, but you're already crossing these sort of threshold levels. Yeah, that R1 pivot, this R1.5. Yeah, definitely got to be careful when it comes down to Bitcoin and when it starts getting into these low probability areas because it just goes up, up, and away. Alrighty. Well, right now, the threshold for Bitcoin to the upside is past, call it 3070. Roughly this 3070 is where things start to get tricky when you start going into these super high areas. So probably would be careful around there. As far as closes for the day, we'll probably end up closing here nominally, right? If you end up crossing above these thresholds, you're ending somewhere up here. And if you're ending, if you're crossing a low, right? If you're going below this S0.5, you're probably ending below that S0.5. All right. On to the next one. We got some oil. Most of the time your low for the day on oil is a bit further down, roughly below central pivot. But that central pivot's also at a psych level 72. So maybe we'll get our low somewhere just below 72. Oh man, check that out. We got pretty uniform looking odds here. So see how we have a peak here where most of our probabilities are, so we can have some sort of certainty about where our low nominally comes in. But then when you look at these odds, it's like totally flat. Well, when you see flat, you have to think uniform. And when you see uniform, it means, oh, I should probably have. There's probably a larger degree of uncertainty. It's no tail risk scenario like this up here, but this is effectively saying you have relatively the same probability, plus or minus 1% of getting your top for the trading day in a 1% move range between just below R1 and just below R2. So when you have uniform looking stuff, Um, it's effectively a guess where the top's going to come in. And you guys, I don't have too much time before I have to go out for the day. I just wanted to make sure I hit the daily stream. And I'll probably ask you guys now for requests, for charts, whatnot, if you want me to go over maybe some of the features for the indicator. Oh, one of the things I wanted to cover that's new in the indicator is I put in the auto time frame. So just like how these pivots automatically switched to a weekly time frame, now the range probabilities also automatically switch to a weekly time frame. So not only do you have these color updates to the range probabilities to make it easier for you to find threshold levels where you have, because like this is very clearly tail risk now, like you can visually see it based off the change in colors. And you can see like, oh, you know, this area has a bit of a lower probability of us finding the low for the month, or the week rather, right around here, but it's not as bad as going all the way down here. You can kind of see like this intermediate level right here. So, you know, I can go over the new features, but I'd like to get one or two requests from anyone who's watching. Otherwise, I'll just cover here the NASDAQ, and I'm going to go grab some grub. Let's see. So there's still potentially more downside here on the dollar, or rather the NASDAQ. The dollar and the NASDAQ are kind of in the same boat, to be frank. Yeah, I don't know why that's going on there. Let's see. Huh. Yeah, that graphical glitch is so annoying. I still have the fix for that. I still have it, and I have it working. It's just there's one or two or three little kinks I gotta work out because it bugs out in a couple of situations that I'm not happy with. So I'm just getting all the edge cases resolved. But for now, either switching a time frame or changing a setting. That's how I've been able to get it to effectively load properly, like this. This is loading properly. Now we look for our high probabilities, and now that doesn't look correct because we got these gaps. Well, that's just... sometimes this is what happens. I didn't want these high probabilities right now. I can always switch to a 12-hour or 4-hour. They loaded fine on that one. But yeah, NASDAQ, you can clearly see looking, and this is for the week, by the way, this isn't for the day. You can see just by looking at this distribution, you're just like, oh, NQ could probably fall a bit more below 15,000, probably to 15.85, roughly this area. And you can see this is actually a bimodal distribution, right? You have a peak here and a peak here. Yeah, and then here's your tail. And boy, that's a far tail. Yeah, let's go ahead and try regenerating it a couple of times, see what we get. Because I thought I saw one that had more densely packed bins. Yeah, something like that, where you can clearly see the highlighting changes. Where it goes from a deep green to a more transparent green to a deeper green again, right? You can even see that in the labels and in all the lines. So it should be a lot easier to actually see, like, oh, you know, if you're just going long right off here, maybe you want your stop in a spot where there's this gap, these lower probability areas, before you get to the next bump in your distribution, right? So like somewhere effectively like 10 or 20 points above where we currently were at. So on this candle, you would have been stopped on whatever position you entered here. And now you're waiting for hopefully this thing to come below 15, roughly around here. And then based off that logic, putting another stop below this S1. Or if you're more the investor type, you're buying around here with your stop way down here. And the fact that it's come down again and might come down just enough to hit this spot means you add again. So add here, probably adding here with a little more size, and putting the stop below that S1, because below this S1 pivot, you can now see like you only go below this price of 14,811, roughly 6.2% of the time. Yeah. That seems like a decent stop. And again, though that 6.2 or 6.3, the odds update for every simulation. Yeah, that particular probability is given over the last 4,000 bars. Yeah. So that's generally for any given trading week over the last 4,000 bars. The aggregated statistics of that. Maybe at some point I'll add a filter option where you can add a data source and use some data source for your filtering, like, when X value is above this number or below this number, some kind of thresholding for sampling. That'd be neat. Sort of, a regime or just a filter sampling method. So then you're not just sampling all the past information, indiscriminately. You're saying like, okay, over the last 4,000 bars, find me when, the VIX or the ATR or some volatility measure is above a certain threshold level, and just collect the bars above that volatility threshold level. And tell me generally what the distribution of returns look like when we are above that level of volatility. And yeah, that's one thing this could certainly be useful for. And having this built right into TradingView, you just switch the chart to whatever you want. You don't have to deal with some clunky Python script or whatever. You just switch the chart to something else on TradingView. Alrighty, this was going to be a pretty short stream, and thank you guys for watching. I'm going to be back on camera in the next stream, and I'll be going a little more in depth into some outlooks I've been reading. In case you guys wanted to hang out with me, come hop into the Discord sometime tomorrow after the stream, because I'm going out tonight. Alrighty, you guys, I'll say thank you so much for watching, and have a lovely, lovely night.